What's up guys, it's Tommy here and welcome to a very special video. This is my Premier League predictions for this upcoming season. The Premier League starts tonight with the Man United Leicester game. Let me know who will finish in the top 6 in order. Leave a comment right now. Who will win the Premier League, who will miss out on the top 4, who will get relegated. There are so many questions. If you enjoy these types of videos, please leave a like, and I'm really looking forward to the Premier League season. Let me know what kind of new features should I implement during the season. I will do Fanzone live reactions for Liverpool games, and I will also do, Premier League reviews of all the biggest games happening in the Premier League. And also I'm playing the Fantasy Premier League game for like more than 10 years, more than 10 seasons. Each year I create a Fantasy Premier League team, and this year I have a private league that you guys can join and we can compete against each other. So I will put the code. If you type in this private league code that you can see on the screen, you can join my fantasy private league, which is called the Tom FIFA Heaven Fantasy League. So come on, join us and have fun, and let's see who will win. Let's get right into this. So the team that will finish bottom of the Premier League, in my opinion, is Cardiff City. Why, you must ask? Cardiff only spent 28 million pounds in total, but they didn't sell any major players, and they haven't signed Premier League quality players. The only Premier League quality that they signed is Harry Arthur. And why I think they will go down is they only scored 69 goals in the Championship last season. Fulham, on the other hand, scored 79, Wolverhampton scored 82, and just to compare, Fulham spent 102 million pounds on their team and Wolverhampton Wanderers spent 70 million pounds, and I think they will struggle this season. That's just my opinion. Neil Warnock, this is the third time that he guided a team up from the Championship to the Premier League, but he got relegated always as a manager when he was managing in the Premier League. Not always in the first season, but most often than not he got relegated with his teams. So I think Cardiff City will get relegated. No offense to Cardiff fans. And the team that will finish second from bottom, so 19th place, in my opinion, is Huddersfield. Huddersfield only just avoided relegation last season. They got 37 points, and you could argue that they got a little bit lucky because they had this brilliant start to the season. At the start of the Premier League, I remember they beat Crystal Palace 3-0, and in the first 10 games they collected enough points. That was enough in the end to just hover above the relegation zone. But the second half of the season for Huddersfield, they really struggled. They only scored 28 goals in total, and they didn't spend an awful lot of money. They only spent 42.9 million pounds on transfers. The biggest signing though for Huddersfield is Terence Kongolo, who is a big talent. They signed him from Monaco. They sold one of their best players, Tom Ince, to Stoke City into the Championship for 12 million pounds. I'm not sure why they did that. Maybe Tom Ince wanted a different challenge and wanted to play it. But I think Huddersfield will struggle because, as I already said, they only scored 28 goals last season in the Premier League. But I think this time they will go down. And I thought long and hard about who to pick for the third team to get relegated, and it's one of Bournemouth, Brighton, Watford. I picked Watford to go down, so Watford is the team to finish 18th, in my opinion. They sold one of their best players, Richarlison, to Everton for a whopping 40 million pounds plus 10 million add-ons, which is a crazy transfer fee, but they didn't really invest it back into the squad. They only signed the players for 31.3 million pounds, and last season, after a great start, they really tailed off in the second part of last season. They even sacked their manager, Marco Silva, and Watford only finished on 41 points thanks to the points tally that Watford gets in the first half of the season. And for the past 3 seasons, that has been a pattern with Watford, that they start off crazy well, and then in the second half of the season they only collect half of as many points as in the first half of the season. And the major signing for them is Gerard Deulofeu from Barcelona for 11.5 million pounds. This is now a permanent deal, but Deulofeu has been playing for Watford last season as well on loan. But other than that, they didn't really strengthen. They signed Ben Foster from West Brom, which is a very experienced goalkeeper. And the team that I think will only stay up, only just by the skin of their teeth, in 17th place, Brighton and Hove Albion. Even though Brighton spent quite a lot of money, £67 million, I'm still not convinced by their defense, because attacking wise they can score quite a few goals, but defensively sometimes they struggle. They signed as many as like 13 or 14 players in total. That's more than a full starting 11 of new players, and I think they will struggle to put the team together because they just signed too many players, in my opinion. I think the biggest signing for Brighton is Martin Montoya. They really needed a right back, and Martin Montoya signed from Valencia. That's actually a really impressive signing, considering that Valencia will be in the Champions League, so Montoya will join a relegation battle in the Premier League. The team to finish in 16th place, in my opinion, is Bournemouth. Bournemouth had a pretty solid season last season. They actually finished in a very respectable 12th place. The season before that they finished in 11th, but they are always in and around the mid-table, so I think they won't really struggle. They haven't signed a lot of players. They only spent £47 million, and they only signed 3 players in total. That's why I think Bournemouth will struggle a little bit, because they only signed David Brooks from Sheffield United, Diego Rico from Leganes, a goalkeeper, I think, and Jefferson Lerma from Levante. That is their biggest signing. £25 million they paid for Jefferson Lerma. The team to finish in 15th place, I was debating between Newcastle and Southampton, and in the end I went with Southampton, because Southampton, even though they spent £54 million, they sold one of their star players. Dusan Tadic went back to Ajax, went back to the Netherlands, and I think Southampton will struggle because they just had too many players sold, too many of their star players left. But I'm actually really interested to see how Mohamed El Younousi will do in the Premier League. And Southampton signed El Younousi from Basel for £16 million, and also they signed very talented youngster Stuart Armstrong from Celtic. And in 14th place I picked Newcastle United. If Rafa Benitez wasn't their manager, I would have picked them for relegation, because Newcastle United, what they did in the transfer window is nothing short of disgraceful. They only spent £17 million and they sold players for £45 million. So Newcastle actually generated the most profit in the transfer window. Their net spend is a negative £29 million, which is like really ridiculous. I feel so sorry for the Newcastle fan base. They deserve a much better owner than Mike Ashley. And just after the transfer window slammed shut, it came out in the English media that Mike Ashley is planning to buy another like big chain of markets in the UK. So they actually took money out of Newcastle United, which is really painful. They signed Ki Seung-young from Swansea, Kennedy from Chelsea on loan. Their best signing in my opinion is Muto from Mainz, who is a very talented, I think it's a Japanese player, and Fabian Schär from Deportivo La Coruña for only £3 million. He used to play for Basel, and Federico Fernandez. So they actually strengthened the defense quite considerably. They sold Mitrovic to Fulham and they loaned out Dwight Gale. Yes, they signed Salomon Rondon from West Brom on loan. And then in 13th, I think one of the newly promoted sides will finish in 13th place, and that is Fulham. Fulham spent a whopping £102 million in the transfer market. That's a transfer record for a newly promoted side. Never before in the Premier League's history has a newly promoted team spent £100 million. Absolutely amazing. Just a few of their amazing signings: Seri from Nice, Alfie Mawson from Swansea, Chambers from Arsenal on loan, Sergio Rico, the Sevilla goalkeeper, and Luciano Viatto, the striker/winger from Atletico Madrid, Timothy Fosu-Mensah from Man United, and Anguissa from Marseille for £22 million. So Fulham bought a whole team of players, and they didn't lose any major players as well. So I think it will be very, very interesting how Fulham does. In 12th place, I picked Burnley. I would have put them in the top 10 if they weren't in the Europa League, but the fact that Burnley are in the Europa League and they will most likely qualify for the group stages of the Europa League, I think they will struggle because they don't have a really big squad, and Burnley didn't spend a lot of money. They only signed players for combined £30 million. And their biggest signing was Ben Gibson from Middlesbrough. They also signed Matej Vidra from Derby County, who is a very good striker, and Joe Hart, very experienced goalkeeper. In 11th place, I think I picked Crystal Palace to finish in 11th place. I really like their team. And they didn't do much transfer business. They only spent £9.5 million, the second worst transfer spend in the whole league. A very good business. They bought Kouyaté for that high £9.5 million. They also brought in Max Meyer for free and Jordan Ayew from Swansea on loan. That's why I picked them to finish in 11th place, because I think they have a pretty strong team already. And with Meyer and Jordan Ayew, I think they will, maybe break into the top 10, but I just picked them in 11th place, just outside the top 10. And in 10th place, I picked the other newly promoted side, Wolverhampton Wanderers, who are having an amazing story already. £70 million spent. Most of the players signed are from Portugal. The connection with Mendes, the super agent, and the Portuguese players. They signed Portugal's #1 goalkeeper, Rui Patricio. They signed Raul Jimenez from Benfica, Jota from Atletico Madrid, and Joao Moutinho, the very experienced centre midfielder from Monaco. Benica Fobe from Bournemouth, Boli from Porto, and Adama Traore, one of the most electric wingers last season in the Championship, from Middlesbrough for 18 million. Well, I'm excited to watch them play. I think they will surprise a lot of people, and I think they will go into the top 10. And in 9th place, I picked Leicester City to finish 9th in the Premier League table. Last season they finished, I think, in 8th place. Let me check last season's table. No, last season they finished 9th as well, and they actually spent a lot of money, £81 million. They spent the 5th most money in the whole league, so that's why I'm pipping them to finish in 9th place, because they actually invested quite heavily in their team. And yes, they sold one of their star players, Riyad Mahrez, but they signed James Maddison, one of the biggest young talents in the Championship last season, Norwich. They signed Ricardo Pereira, a big player for Porto, a very good defensive midfielder. They signed Johnny Evans, Danny Ward, the Liverpool goalkeeper, as backup for Kasper Schmeichel. And I'm pipping West Ham United to finish in 8th place, because I was very impressed with their transfer business. West Ham United spent £96 million on players, and they signed Felipe Anderson from Lazio for £35 million, a huge transfer. Ryan Yarmolenko from Dortmund for £18 million, Jack Schwircher on free transfer, Lucas Fabianski, a very good goalkeeper who got relegated with Swansea, Carlos Sanchez, the Colombian international, I think, from Fiorentina, also a very good player. Issa Diop, a very strong big player from Toulouse, for £22 million. I remember that Lanzini is still yet to come back from a long-term injury, probably in the early part of next year. And West Ham had a very disappointing season last season, finishing only in 13th place, but with a world-class manager like Pellegrini, who managed Real Madrid, and he won the Premier League title with Manchester City ahead of my beloved Liverpool. I know that too well, to be honest. So I expect big things from West Ham, so that's why I pipped them to finish in 8th place. And I think in 7th place, Everton will finish in 7th place in the Premier League next season. Everton has done very good business as well. They spent again big money, £80 million in total. Their biggest signing is Richarlison, who cost 40 million, and I expect big things from Richarlison. Yerry Mina from Barcelona, Andre Gomes on loan from Barcelona, and Luca Digne from Barcelona as well. So they signed 3 players from Barcelona and Bernard from Shakhtar Donetsk on a free transfer. But I think under Sam Allardyce they didn't fulfill their full potential, and Richarlison hit his top form in the first part of last season when Andre Silva was the manager of Watford. Now he's the manager of Everton. So Everton, I think, will have an improved season from last season, but they just don't have enough to break into the top 6 in my opinion. The top 6 are just too strong. The most difficult thing about the Premier League predictions was to actually pick who will finish in the top 4 and outside of the top 4. So I think in 6th place it will be Arsenal, because even though I know that Arsenal signed quite a lot of players and they have a new manager in Unai Emery, if I look at the signings, the new signings, Ben Leno, Liechtenstein, Socrates, Lucas Torreira and Guendouzi, they just don't represent the amount of quality that is needed for Arsenal to improve much on last season's 6th place finish. And last season they had one of the worst defensive performances. They conceded 51 goals and they were actually a whopping 12 points plus a lot of goals behind Liverpool in 6th place. So Arsenal needed to do a lot more in the transfer window, in my opinion. And yes, I know that Unai Emery will probably make Arsenal more disciplined and more hard to beat, but and they have Aubameyang and Lacazette, 2 world-class strikers who can score goals for them at any time, but defensively they are still not strong enough in my opinion, and they also lack a really good defensive midfielder, somebody like N'Golo Kante or Fabinho or Fernandinho. I picked Chelsea to finish in 5th place. I thought long and hard about it. Should Tottenham or Chelsea finish in 5th place in my prediction, but Chelsea selling Courtois ultimately decided this for me, because I think having a world-class goalkeeper like Courtois really saved Chelsea many times. And yes, I know that they signed Kepa for a world record £71 million. That's the goalkeeper transfer record now. They broke Alisson's transfer record. They also signed Jorginho and Kovacic on loan. I think where Chelsea will struggle is the goalkeeping position, because both Kepa and Rob Green and Caballero, they are not like the necessary quality needed for Chelsea in my opinion. And also up front, Morata, Giroud and Batshuayi, they are all strikers who are not scoring the amount of goals that players like Salah, Harry Kane, Aguero, Lukaku, other top teams strikers, Aubameyang for example, other top team strikers will score a lot more goals than Chelsea strikers, and I think that's where ultimately Chelsea will miss out on the top 4. Having a world-class striker like Harry Kane, I think makes the difference for Tottenham. Even though Tottenham became the only team in Premier League history and probably in English football history to not sign a player before the new season. They spent zero amount of money, but they extended the contract of the likes of Harry Kane, Heung-min Son and other players. So I think Tottenham will finish in 4th place. It will be a fascinating race towards the top 4 and who will finish in the top 4. But I think Tottenham kept their best players together, and they are still young, so they could potentially improve on last season even. And they last season got 77 points, mainly down to Harry Kane's like 31 goals, I think. I think Manchester United will finish in 3rd place. In 4th place, Jose Mourinho is absolutely fuming. Man United, yes, they spent a lot of money, £70 million, but they wanted a new centre-back and they failed to get any of their targets in. They were linked with Toby Alderweireld, Harry Maguire, Jerome Boateng, even Diego Godin of Atletico Madrid, but in the end they bought none of them. They bought 3 players and only one of them is a regular starter from Shakhtar Donetsk, and I think that's just not enough. And last season Man United actually were lucky that they finished 2nd, because I think if Liverpool went out of the Champions League earlier, they would have concentrated more on the Premier League and could have easily finished ahead of Manchester United. Liverpool dropped like 12 points in the last like 5 or 6 rounds, and Man United actually finished just 6 points ahead of Liverpool in the end. And Man United really struggled for goals. Only Chelsea scored less amount of goals than Man United last season. Out of the top 6, Man United scored 68 goals. Just to compare, you know, Arsenal scored 74, Chelsea scored 74, Liverpool scored 84, and of course we full know well that Man City scored 106 goals. So I think Man United needed a lot more. They actually needed to spend big on either they sold Dele Blind to Ajax. Still needed a new left back, a new right back, because Antonio Valencia and Ashley Young, they are wingers who have to play in the fullback position because there is no one better. The Man United fans are really restless and they are livid with Manchester United's transfer business, and also the way that Jose Mourinho has been playing is pretty much unacceptable for the Man United fans. They are sick and tired of him and his constant moaning and blaming everybody else but himself. And I'm loving it because you know, guys, that I'm not the biggest fan of Mourinho. I'm definitely not the biggest fan of Man United. I don't really like them. So I'm really loving this turmoil that Manchester United are in. But they still have world-class players. So if it clicks and if Mourinho finally concentrates on coaching and improving the players, they could actually, you know, have a good season. So that's why I tipped them to third place. And the biggest question is, and you guys have been waiting for this, who will win the Premier League in my opinion? If I listen to my heart, that says Liverpool, but this prediction I will try to be objective, as I'm saying Manchester City, because last season Man City got to 100 points, record-breaking season, 106 goals scored, and even if Man City drop off and collect like 10 or 12 points less than last season, that's still 90 points or 88 points. For Liverpool to get to that will be really difficult. Liverpool finished on 75 points. We were very unlucky with refereeing decisions. There has been a study done that Liverpool actually lost the most amount of points to refereeing errors, and I think this season we will be much better. Finally, we have a world-class goalkeeper like we never had since Pepe Reina left the club. We have a world-class defensive midfielder in Naby Keita and a very good defensive midfielder in Fabinho. And Naby Keita is more of a box-to-box midfielder. We have strength in depth because we have Shaqiri, we have Lallana back, who is just like a new signing. We have Sturridge back, who is also just like a new signing. So Liverpool are really well equipped, but I still think that they will fall short. It all depends on Manchester City and what they do, because if Man City have as good a season or similarly good season than last season, then Liverpool, I can't see Liverpool getting to 90 points. That's what I'm saying, because our defense I still think that we need another centre-back who is almost as good as Van Dijk, because Lovren, Matip, Joe Gomez, Klavan, they are all good centre-backs, but not on the level of Van Dijk. And I'm just struggling to see where Liverpool could get like 20 or 15 points more than last season, because that's what it would take to overhaul Man City. I think Liverpool need to get to 90 points plus to win the title this season. That's how good Manchester City is. Man City won 32 of their 38 games. It's just an absolutely crazy number. Liverpool only won 21 of their 38 games. Liverpool got 12 draws, too many draws. If we can turn those draws into wins, if we can shore up the defense, because I think Liverpool will score a similar amount of goals to last season, 84, and you can win a title with 84 or 85 scored goals, but you need to be much better defensively. And I think Liverpool did a very good business. This is the best Liverpool squad of the last 20 years, in my opinion, since I've been following the club close to 20 years now, and I'm really looking forward to the season. But I think Manchester City will finish in first place. That's my prediction, because they are even stronger than last season, because they kept their best players, Plus they signed Riyad Mahrez, and don't make no mistake, that's a huge signing. I would have loved Mahrez to see at Liverpool. I would love to see Mahrez at Liverpool. He cost 60 million pounds. That's the only major transfer that Man City did, and they didn't sell a lot of their players. They only sold players for 37 million pounds, yeah, not a lot of them are major first team players. So I think Manchester City will win the Premier League. That's my prediction, but let me know what is your prediction in the comments below. The only way I can see Liverpool or any other team winning the Premier League is if Man City's stars get too complacent. If they get a serious injury to Sergio Aguero, for example. Aguero will be out for 4 months. But then they still have Gabriel Jesus, they still have Mahrez, Sané, Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva, David Silva, De Bruyne. They have world-class players in virtually every position out on the pitch, so that's why I'm struggling to see where Man City will drop so many points that other teams will have a chance. But I'm certainly hopeful that Liverpool can do a miracle and win the Premier League this season. So enjoy the Premier League season, guys, and I hope you enjoyed my Premier League predictions. Thanks for watching, see you later, goodbye.